All right, so from Doja Fett, upcoming changes to the Pit Challenge tier. We have finalized the changes to the challenge tier of the Pit Raid scheduled to be released in the coming weeks. So definitely not in the next week, it's weeks out, apparently. I'm not really sure why it's so far out, but whatever. Our main objective with these modifications is to maintain which guilds can complete this event while removing the headache of coordinating the majority of guild members over a very narrow period of time, and reduce the stress for guild officers. Aw, isn't that sweet that they're actually considering guild officers? Because this has been a massive headache for them. Alright, so they're happy with the guilds that are completing this. So they're definitely trying to make sure that they're not making it easier, which is what I figured, because they seemed to be happier, or they seemed to be happy with how many guilds were actually completing this. Okay. Second, we want to expand the accessibility of the challenge tier within the guilds completing it. I assume this is meaning they want more members to be able to participate. Oh, yeah, they say that. Guild members should be able to participate in this raid regardless of real-life factors like time zone, Discord usage, and device ownership. Okay, so that's good. Hopefully it'll prevent all of those international guilds from having to self-destruct. This is a lot of good news here. Third, these changes are also aimed at preventing characters like Supreme Leader Kylo Ren from soloing phases of the raid. Personally, I didn't feel like that was that big of a problem. Most guilds weren't allowing it anyway, and it wasn't exactly easy to do, but whatever. With those objectives in mind, we are changing the stacking speed and offense that persisted between runs to only impact the current battle and adjusting the amount and rate at which these stacks start building up. While the changes can make large runs harder, your overall guild progress should be roughly the same, but without needing the heavy coordination. I find this interesting because it's basically exactly what we were asking for. Get rid of the stacking speed and offense, the persistent stack, and just change it to per run. And so this is great. This is really what everybody was asking for as far as I'm aware. While we may in the future design game modes that require deeper levels of coordination, we recognize the original version of the Pit Challenge tier raid did not accomplish this in a way that was as fun for many guilds. Yeah, no kidding. We will continue to monitor the impact of these changes and take your feedback into close consideration. There will be an announcement on the release date for these changes several days in advance in order to help guilds coordinate when to launch their raids. Okay, that's good. So they're going to make sure that we have time to know. Wow. There's kind of a lot just in there. So it seems that they intended to require this level of coordination, and that they didn't realize that having to play the game in airplane mode was going to be not fun. I'm not sure what I think about that, but okay, at least they're fixing that. Okay, red will be removed, green will be added to Pit Fighter 2 description in a future update. Great. Alright, so Pit Fighter 2. It's keeping the plus 50% tenacity while it isn't toppled, and is immune to turn meter reduction effects. Obviously, they wouldn't change that for any reason. Thank you for the follow, Lord of the Darts. Glad to see you made it back into your Twitch account. Also, Torbusto, thank you. And anybody I may have missed. All right, so that's staying the same. Now, what they're changing here is the stacking, offense, and speed. So originally, for every 20% of its health lost, this unit gains 75% offense and speed stacking. Now it will be, for each 2% health lost this battle, this unit gains 20% offense and speed stacking. These bonuses increase by an additional 20% each time. Okay, that's a little crazy. So once you hit 4% health lost then, you will be at plus 60% offense and speed stacking. That's huge. They're really, really reducing the how far you can get here. They're really going after those high damage runs. That's even going to hurt. That's going to hurt every team out there, really. Okay. On the other hand, because it's not persistent, it means you can have multiple teams. Each player can do multiple teams per phase. So that's going to change the entire dynamic of this raid wildly. Okay, so there's a note here. These bonuses work similarly to Enfys Nest's unique Fighting Instinct and will increase by 20%, then increase by 40%, 60%, and so on for this battle only. Okay, so at 2% health loss, you'll be at a plus 20% offense and speed. At 4%, you'll be at 60% offense and speed. And then at 6%, you'll be at 120 extra offense and speed. That's pretty crazy. So they're that's almost hard capping at maybe 8%. Because after that, that's just impossible. That said, there might be some really interesting Vader teams. This is where I'm thinking of sort of pointing towards. There could be some really interesting Vader teams where you can just stack a ton of dots, and then get off one massive culling blade. So that could be really significant. That could get you 10, 12% maybe. But that's about the best I can think of off the top of my head there. We'll get to the rest of this. Okay. So then this is staying the same at the start of each of its turns. This unit gains 50 armor penetration, which is a fixed stat. It's not a percentage. 50 armor penetration and 10% crit chance, critical damage, and potency stacking, and all enemies both active and defeated lose 5% offense, tenacity, and mastery. Now they've removed here that all enemies both active and defeated lose 5% offense, tenacity, and mastery stacking until the end of the encounter, tripled for Galactic Legends. They're now changing that to just stacking at a max of 10 stacks until the end of the encounter. So they've removed the massive penalty for Galactic Legends. That's great. Now your theoretically JML and Sith Eternal should be a little bit more useful. I mean, I'm not sure it's going to make... I think it just means that they're going to be a little bit more on par with the other two, but everybody's being brought down a lot. So that'll be interesting. So I think you're going to be able to get nearly as much out of Sith Eternal and JML now as you could out of a Rey team. And then Pit Fighter... Let's see. Okay, and then this is just reiterating the old Pit Fighter 2 and the new one down here. Okay, so that's a pretty big deal. So we'll be able to have our Galactic Legends, our other Galactic Legends will be coming up a little bit. You can now actually get some damage out of Sith Eternal. I doubt you can last long enough to get into... Well, I don't think there's any way to get into alt outside of phase 1, but you could now use Sith Eternal in phase 1 and maybe actually do some reasonable damage. That could be interesting. Oh, that's not your main Lord of the Darts? Just another one. Got it. All right. So that's interesting. We'll have to play around with a whole bunch of different things, but it does look like Sith Eternal might be useful in phase 1 now. I don't know. We'll see. Still probably going to be more useful under a Vader lead, though, just for helping Vader out. Let's see. What other... So, I mean, that's two fairly... They're very, very significant changes, but it's just two changes. So that's interesting that they tried to keep it kind of simple and with the same general idea. So that's good. That shows some thought. So let's see. What's going to be some pretty massive effects there? I mean, the whole thing's going to be wildly different. So now you won't be able to get anywhere near a 20% run, it doesn't sound like. You'd have to wildly stack dots to get anywhere near that for Vader. But if you can keep the entire team alive long enough, so an interesting team might be, and this is one I saw on my server recently, is a Vader JML team with Watt. So if you can do a Vader JML Watt team, maybe even with Hermit Yoda in there, keep everybody alive for a long time, you might be able to stack a lot of dots and keep it from really getting any damage, because getting under 2% isn't going to be very hard in that kind of team. It'd take a long time for Vader to get it down 2% on his own if nobody else is doing any damage. So it's all about seeing how long you can survive before then getting off a culling blade. So that's kind of my first thought on a team to aim for. There's some interesting stuff there. But there's some major changes here. So first, you don't have to play in airplane mode anymore. Who cares if you accidentally dump a little bit of a run? Okay, great. That's a massive improvement. No more airplane mode necessary, though you should play in airplane mode to get your best run, but you don't have to hold it. Once you have your best run, post it. Great. There goes that massive pain of coordination. That is honestly making the entire raid harder in order to just gain that. I'm happy with that personally. The coordination and having to play on airplane mode, to me, that was just a massive headache for no particularly good reason. That is not the type of challenge you want. Okay, so then next, here's the biggest thing for me, is also allowing people to use multiple teams in the same phase. This is going to change things up rather radically too, because now you're going to be looking, okay, before we were looking at, okay, we just need what's the best team that we can run in each phase. Well, now we can look at second, third, fourth, fifth best teams in each phase. Like that's great. Well, I think this is like that's kind of what I'm hitting on here is probably what they were going for is now people can get a whole lot more damage in each phase because they can use a bunch more teams and it opens up a whole lot more options instead of you get to use your best 4 teams, period, and that's it. Now, there's a lot of people out there who have 8 to 15 teams that can do this. And now they can use them. They can use their entire R5 roster out there to do it. So they needed to lower the amount of damage that people could do with their best teams. And so I think 2% is going to be okay. We'll really have to see how it pans out in the end. I still think Vader's going to come out as MVP in this one because of the way his kit works. I don't think anybody's going to be able to. No one can stack damage like he can now. But I think 2% is going to work out just because you're going to have a ton of people who can do a whole lot more teams. So that's the second really big deal is we're now going to be looking at, okay, what's the second, third, fourth, fifth best team per phase? That's huge. And we'll have entire lists for each phase now of, hey, run through this in your roster. Another huge one is how much easier Phase 4 is going to be. Phase 4 was already ridiculously hard to get over 4% anyway. So now it's actually going to be easier to do that 4% in Phase 4. Yeah. I think Crew's going to see a little bit of a bump here too. He's going to be even more useful as a tank. So we'll see. But Phase 4 is going to become significantly easier here. 1, people are going to be able to use multiple teams. 2, they were already having trouble getting 4% anyway, and now they're just going to be able to use multiple teams to do it. And most people have multiple teams to throw at Phase 4, so now it's a true kitchen sink phase. So those people who are stuck on Phase 4, it just got a whole lot easier. So that's interesting for sure. But yeah, 2%, that's not much. That really takes the GLs out. So they're not going to be able to do a ton of damage because if you really start stacking Kylo, he's just going to take it out. He's just going to get taken out very quickly because it's there. But on the other hand, you're still going to get maybe 4 to 6, maybe 8%. And since you're not being reduced, since the triple reduction is gone, you can still potentially stack Supreme Leader Kylo pretty well. I would guess that the general idea for using Supreme Leader Kylo now is going to be more towards waiting for that, is going to be when you pop off your, probably at this point, second ult, And you might have to stretch that out and wait till just before the Rancor gets unmanageable, or possibly the Gamorrean gets unmanageable, and then you want to pop your ult, go after it, and get a few more big hits out of it. Yeah, I would guess 8%, but 8% is going to be great at this. I don't think anybody's going to do better than 8%, except for possibly Vader. I think the trick is going to be getting Vader to 10 or 12% first. I think that's going to be the real upcoming fun, as it were. But you've also got some other interesting things. Rex is going to take a pretty big nerf here, because every time you get off an annihilate or a aerial advantage, you're just stacking, and you may not even get to a second aerial advantage. I would guess you could still get 2 off, but I can't see any way you're going to be able to get 3 off with Rex anymore. But JML and Sith Eternal, they're going to have definitely some boosts here for sure. Yeah, I think Vader is definitely the best opportunity to get 10%. Or higher. So I'll probably be messing around with a bunch of Vader teams. I'd really want to see maybe Vader and Armorer, and maybe Vader, Armorer, and Watt for sure. I don't know. Armorer might be a little bit of a trick. But you could maybe use Armorer to get enough out there, because you're not really stacking. She doesn't do enough damage to where it would be a problem. Yeah, I think Vader, Armorer, Watt would be a very interesting one to start with probably Crew. Crew's probably going to be significantly easier to manage that than Malik. And then maybe Hermit Yoda. Yeah, Dunster. I agree. If you could draw it out, and I mean, what you might go for is just one big aerial advantage, just like Vader's Culling Blade. So you just draw it out as long as you possibly can, and then bam, one aerial advantage, see how much you can do it for, and then you're done. Yeah, it'd be interesting. That's true. BB-8, Hoda. You could even do Armorer, BB-8, 3PO, Watt. Could also be good. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting ones. That's definitely what I'm going to be playing around with most, I think. Do you? You need a tank in phase 1. I don't think that you would necessarily need it. Well, so here's the thing. You can make Vader super tanky in this. You don't have to stack massive speed and really even offense, because your entire thing here is just try to survive as long as you can. And if you're getting off if everybody's tanky enough, or at least you make it so that Vader's not the only one getting hit, which the Rancor definitely likes to go after whoever's the weakest, and that usually is Vader, because you have to make him super fast or super offense. But now you're only going for one Culling Blade, so it's just trying to survive as long as you can. So you might be able to get away without a tank. But if not, then definitely use Crew, I think. Malik would be fine too, but I think Crew's definitely going to be better. So that's going to be... There's going to be some fun there, but this wildly changes the entire raid. I don't think any of our current theory crafting is going to carry over much into this, other than like the basic teams, but we're going to have to change everything up. On the bright side, I think it's also going to mean there's a lot more teams that work. So you no longer have to basically have a bunch of GLs to get Phase 4 done. We can now go in with a bunch of different teams, and there's going to be a lot of second, third, and fourth place teams that are going to work decently well now. So this will be interesting because you can go in now. You don't need JKR with Ray, so you can have a JKR team and a Ray team go in, and that can work. Get you some maybe more overall damage. I'm sure a lot of people are going to see much higher overall damage in Phase 4 in particular, but I think there's a lot of people who are going to see more overall damage throughout the entire raid period. So this is going to be very, very interesting. This cannot come soon enough, in my opinion. I know a number of guilds who have either already broken up or are going to break up because they're maybe international guilds or just people cannot participate at the same time. I mean, it's pretty difficult when you're only 2 time zones away, and we've got a lot of people out there, a lot of guilds who are split by maybe 5 to 7 time zones. That's pretty difficult to manage. So this is going to save, I think, a good number of guilds. And overall, I think this is a lot of good changes. Yeah, exactly. It is definitely going to, I mean, that's the one place where I maybe have a little bit of a problem with what they've done here is now any guild with enough R5s can just do it. Just throw everything at them. Doesn't matter if you've got good mods on them. Doesn't matter. Just throw everything out there. Okay. So there was some neat idea in the, hey, you can only use one team per phase. And I mean, they could still implement that at some point where your roster is locked after one battle. They could do that. It'd probably be a lot trickier. That's a mechanic that they don't have implemented anywhere in the game as far as I can think of. So it'd be tricky to implement, but I bet they could do it. But there's also, I mean, there's a lot of people where it's okay for this to be an R5 roster check. You have a lot of people who've invested a lot of time into the game. They have a good number of R5 characters, but because they don't have Ray, they can't participate in Phase 4. And because they don't have Slacker, they can't solo Phase 1. So, yeah. Yep, Vader Newt. I think you're right. It's going to be, Vader Newt should be fairly similar. And definitely less RNG. I think we'll just have to really see how it plays out, Ikir. I don't think that, because even so, like especially with Phase 4 is already really hard. If you're going in there with crap, you're still not going to get much damage. You still have to have some technique and good modding and strategy. But you've definitely got a little bit more room to play around. And I think one of the things I'm looking forward to is I think we'll see a lot more interesting teams because you can now, it does not have to be the absolute most optimal team. All right. Dunster's got a raid in Phase 3 right now. Went in with Vader Newt. Okay, let me know how that goes. Yeah. Having to herd your guild to do it. Oh, thank goodness. I'm so tired of trying to organize it. It's just such a pain. Good. Yeah, 6.5% cull is pretty good. So, what else? What other thoughts do we have here? I think it's kind of silly that they didn't recognize that this was not going to be fun to begin with. Requiring an entire guild of, 50-ish people who are playing a mobile game to all have to be online at the same time, have their phone in airplane mode, but still be able to communicate with their guild, and then post damage at the same time. I'm not sure who thought that was going to be fun. Yeah, exactly. I don't get it. Why would they think that was the way to go? So I'm a little off put that it seems like they actually thought originally that what they had done here was a feature and not a bug. Um, but at least they're correcting it, so that's good. Like they have acknowledged that that is not the fun that they were trying to accomplish. They might still try it again in the future for something else, but hopefully not a raid. And it's and they're fixing it. So okay, good. I was not terribly optimistic that they would provide this good of a fix, quite honestly. Dunster, the new rules are not in the game yet. They aren't being implemented for weeks, whatever that means to them. So I would guess we're okay. All right, I got you. So I would guess we're probably 3 weeks out. I would assume that they're going to maybe give us a week's notice, and we can assume that they're not going to give us that announcement for at least a week, if not two. Oh, interesting. Oh, I see what you were doing. So you got it down there, so it would have been at like a 20% bonus, and then yeah, all right. So yeah, that should be able to do a good 10% if you mod it especially for it. Yeah, I would hope I would aim for 12. 12's the goal I would go for there, and then be prepared to just end. Fun. Well, anybody else have any interesting thoughts here? This is quite the change. All in all, I think good. I honestly, there's nothing here that I'm unhappy about. I'm a little skeptical about the 2%. It may or may not be too little or too much. We'll see. I think it's probably going to be fine just because we'll be able to use so many more teams. But we'll see. Thoughts on time frame for announcing new GLs? Would it maybe go along with them putting this in the game? No, I don't think they would have anything to do with each other as far as when they would decide to announce it. They haven't seemed to have any particular time frames on when they announce anything. It's just whenever they have it ready seems to be the thing anymore, which is great. At least they're communicating. That's better than what they were doing before. Doja Fett's been a really helpful addition, it seems. Um, as far as announcing the new GLs, I'm really hoping it'll be in the next couple weeks. I would think it would be soon, but they want to, let Conquest sink in a little bit, so I definitely think it's going to be I would assume that it will be after the Conquest exhibition. As far as and then they also have, I mean, we've got hints of possibly Bo Katan, and I have no idea if I would assume that she's going to be a legendary, but we already had Beskar Mando somewhat recently, so I don't know. That's true. They might wait for May the 4th for it. But they haven't really waited for that in the past for things like this. They just do a special May the 4th thing and not, a big character release. But we're also talking about the announcement, so it could be one of those things they might announce it, say 4 weeks before May the 4th, and then have it go live on May the 4th. I wouldn't be terribly surprised. As far as Master Kenobi, thank you for the follow, Ram Bam. Nice to see you here. As far as Master Kenobi and Fallen Anakin, I I'd really like to see a sort of Galactic Republic GL, but I have no idea idea what they would do with a fallen Anakin, and it would be really cool to have the two of them. Well, I guess they would be an Empire GL, wouldn't it? So you'd have a Galactic Republic GL and then an Empire GL, and that could be super cool. Everyone would like to see a Mace Windu rework. That would be great, but I've almost given up hope on that one. Though I gave up hope on the General Grievous rework, and they came through on that one. So I'll probably be on the wrong end of this one. um, yeah, definitely not a GL for Bo-Katan. I couldn't see that. That would be really weird. But maybe an epic confrontation. I think that's possible. I don't know. I'm not sure that they even want to do any more epic confrontations. General Skywalker might be enough for them on that. Let's see here. Yeah, we might see. I mean, the Imperial Troopers. I love the love that they're getting. Dark Trooper is fun, really fun and good. Yeah, Dunster, I kind of agree with you. I would assume that it'll be a Disney Plus era GL pair. And that might actually be why it's taking so long for us to get anything on it, is that they weren't sure what characters to use from Disney Plus era. We'll see. Your Relics 8 will be. What did you Relic 8, Ram Bam? New Boba Fett. I'm not sure what they would do with the new Boba Fett. Obviously, well, I doubt it would be a bounty hunter, but maybe a real scoundrels sort of lead. I would have hoped for a Jabba the Hutt instead, but oh my goodness, you did Mace Windu. That's amazing. Ram Bam, I love your faith. That is amazing. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, Ahsoka Thrawn would be very, very cool. I would love a GL Thrawn. And I'd really love to see sort of Rebels and Empire. That would be like, I would love that as the next GLs. I mean, I'm an old school Star Wars fan, so I really want to see that kind of thing. That would be great. That's amazing. Ram Bam, that's awesome. Yeah, that's true. So that could be a later thing, but they could also get ahead of the curve on that. So we'll see. Either way, I'm looking forward to new GLs. I've been totally just hoarding everything to wait for that, including G8 materials or Relic 8 materials in case they need Relic 8s for that. Honestly, I haven't really seen a huge amount of benefit out of the Relic 8s. I'm going to do a rundown video fairly soon on who I think is useful to Relic 8, though I'll wait for the new changes to. Uh, at this point, I'm going to wait for the new changes to the raid to do a lot of different things now. My entire production list just kind of got thrown out the window there. We'll see. There's going to be. I'll do some videos on some theory crafting stuff, but who knows what it's really going to look like when we get down to it. Honestly, I went ahead and spent some of my gear on the troopers because it's a fun team. I like what they've done, and we're going to get that fifth Imperial Remnant soon. At least we better. There's going to be a lot of salty people if we don't get that fifth Imperial Remnant soon. And surely it will be Scout Trooper, and that's just going to be a fun team. And troopers are just fun to begin with. They've been fun since basically since we got, well, especially Piet, but really even since Range Trooper they were fun. So it's a super fun team. Yes, Dark Trooper is definitely better in a non-remnant team currently. Uh, Dark Trooper is ridiculously good with Piet, for example. That's a crazy combo. And I mean, he just has good Empire synergy. Yeah, he gives himself advantage, but it's not like it's so infrequent, and you don't even necessarily need to use it. because then he doesn't do that much damage with that ability. Yeah, exactly, Rambam. So there's definitely going to be, I would assume, a scout trooper fairly soon, and surely it's just going to be a marquee. And if they stay with what they've done in the past, I would expect to see that in say 2-ish weeks that we'll have a good scout, and that'd be fun. Yeah, exactly. He just needs the punch. So why even bother giving him? Because his AOE just doesn't even do that much damage. I mean, yeah. Especially if you throw in, oh boy, if you threw in, say, Hoda or anybody that would call him to assist as well, and you can just keep getting him off. Yeah, which maybe that's something I shouldn't say on stream. um, yeah, you could throw in some different ways to assist call him, keep giving him advantage. That'd be pretty crazy. You definitely build up a lot of ult for Slacker. I'll have to see about playing around with that once I max him out. That'll probably be a while though. I don't. I tend not to spend a ton of money on the game, but yeah, we'll see. That's a very interesting thought, Ikir. Yeah. So it could also be cool. So my guess, as far as the GLs go, is actually definitely leaning toward remnants, but we need a lot more characters, obviously, for the remnants to really play in. But that's a very like as far as Disney Plus factions go, you basically have remnants, to a certain extent, the rebels, or sort of the beginning of the rebels. You have the Mandalorians, and they haven't really built up the New Republic faction at all yet. So I'd be surprised if we really see a New Republic faction, but it'd be interesting if they're really trying to stick with a Disney Plus era stuff, which is probably what they should do, and I'm sure what Disney wants them to do. So I would be surprised if it wasn't Disney Plus era, but at the same time, they've got a lot of work to do on those factions if they're going to put out GLs for it. And hopefully we don't have to wait that long. So, well, I think that probably. I mean, that's a really, really good question, Torbusto. Will we notice Rancor's speed increase when Rancor's toppled and falls below 98%? I would assume that it will be. It may not be that noticeable when he falls below 98, but it'll probably be very noticeable when he falls below 96. But I'm sure that it will. I'm sure that it will happen. That'll make a really slow Thrawn even more valuable in a Vader lineup there. That Newt Vader Thrawn, man, that'll be interesting. Yeah, exactly. So you use Newt with Newt Treya Thrawn, and they keep the Rancor super slow. I don't know if you could get off how many culling blades you could really get off there, or it's probably better to just make sure that you get off one big culling blade. But that'd be, yeah, that entire team's just going to be even better than it already was, or at least relatively better. It won't do as much damage as it is doing now, but relative to every other team basically getting a massive nerf here, it'll be better. I am chicken. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't see the material there right now, but just looking at the sort of business landscape, I don't know what else they would do, I'm sure that Disney would be pushing them towards doing Disney Plus material, and you can see that they're focused on that with with the new marquees and everything. So I'd be surprised if it's not, but at the same time, they have so much work to do to get factions ready for GLs. So I think it's probably just as likely that we would have to just wait for new GLs for that than to than to really give us GLs from the original trilogy. Well, but that's actually kind of my point. See, they don't really care about for everybody who can't see. Ikir asked the business landscape. They gave us 4 GLs from the new trilogy. They don't care about giving us what we want. Um, yeah, that's kind of my point. Is even though nobody wanted those GLs, they gave us ones from newer material. So and the new material right now is the Disney Plus material. And so I'd be surprised if they don't stick with that. Well, I mean, we've got, Ahsoka stuff, we've got Bad Batch, they've got so many shows coming out, most of which I don't personally care about. And, Boba would be, I think, an interesting one that they could actually do. They could do a Boba. That's one of the few that I see as really having potential. You could also do, um, I mean, I still feel like Jedi Knight Luke should have been a GL, but whatever. Um, but they could do, a rebel faction ish. Yeah, Crime Lord Boba. I don't know really what they'd do, but it'd be, a scoundrel GL could be very cool. And I mean, I would have said before the whole, Gina Carano thing, I would have said they would do a Rangers and Crime Lord Boba, but now that whole Rangers thing is totally up in the air. So, I have no idea what that faction's going to look like. Because I would assume that they'd be decently opposed factions in the lore that they're putting out, but I have no idea. They haven't released a ton of information on it, and I honestly don't care that much about either show anyway. Personally, I hope it's prequel GLs. I would love that. I would also really like. I mean, my preference would be original trilogy GLs, but I would guess they're going to avoid that. They're going to avoid both the prequels and original trilogy for this stuff. I'm sure for various licensing reasons. I know there's a whole lot of theories around George Lucas's contract with Disney and how all of that works, but they have to, as far as it goes, most people think that even to use any of the original stuff, they'd have to, or even prequel stuff, they have to pay George Lucas some sort of royalties on some of those things. So in general, they're probably going to try to avoid big things like that. Yeah, I agree with you. They tend to want to wait till things have screen time, but Ahsoka's already had screen time in Mandalorian. Thrawn has had screen time in Rebels, though we already have that Thrawn in the game, which is great. But I don't know. I'm hopeful that it'll be prequel or oh gosh, yeah, Revan and Mitra GLs would be super cool. But I loved the Old Republic series, and that would be great. But I don't see them revisiting Old Republic, honestly, anytime soon. Even if I really want them to revisit and fix up Vissus and make her useful, but I just don't see them going back to Old Republic. It would be nice. Personally, I love Old Republic. Yes, we all want Visas to be useful. Yeah. So, we've got this list of hopefuls. I'd love to see Obi-Wan and Fallen Anakin. That would be awesome, especially because we could have it as Galactic Republic, who needs a GL, and Empire, who needs a GL. Those would be great ones. We've got, what's some other really fun ones? Obviously, Boba, and really most of the ones we've already gone after. I really love the idea of Revan and Mitra, because you could totally do that. You'd have a Darth Revan GL, and you'd have a Mitra Lightside GL. More than likely, that's how you'd do it. I guess you could reverse them if you really wanted to. I don't think I could see Kenobi and Maul. Maul just was never that level of character. I guess neither was Jedi Master Luke. I don't know. Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about a Maul GL. But yeah, I mean, I don't know about Galactic Republic and Scoundrels. That's true. Fallen Anakin isn't really on screen all that much either, but that one fight scene is excellent. That is such a good fight scene. If you guys have not watched it, you should really check out. What's his name? There's a YouTuber who breaks down cinematic fight scenes, and he did that one, and it's phenomenal. It's really bugging me that I can't think of his name. Because I'm sorry. I can't believe I'm spacing on his name. He's excellent. But I'm going to find it. It is... Where is it? Well, I can't find it. That is obviously strange. Did I get unsubscribed? That has happened to me a couple times, that I've been unsubscribed from people. I'm not sure what that's about. Well, I'll post it some other time. In any case, it's true, Anakin is at least the main character of the saga. That's true. Maul did have more story as well. Also as a crime lord, which I assume is what they're going to get into in Book of Boba, is going to be a whole lot of Maul and Boba, maybe? I'm not sure. Hey, Nerdy, how you doing? Oh, thank you for the subscription, Jimothy. Appreciated. Shadowversity, perfect. Yes. Sorry for yelling. Shadowversity did a video on it. He's excellent. I also really liked his breakdown for The Witcher. Thank you, Ikir. I appreciate that. I don't know why I got unsubscribed from his channel. I'll have to redo that. Excellent fight breakdowns. But anyway, I think I've gone on enough of a tangent here. Does anybody have any more thoughts on the raid changes? Overall, I think it's a very, very... Honestly, if they had made the entire thing twice as hard, which they kind of did, but took away the need for the massive coordination, I would have been happy. So I'm happy. They got rid of the need for massive coordination. So all in all, I'm happy with it. I think it's very positive changes. Yes, the 2% thing is rough. That's going to... Basically, it's a massive nerf to every team, but at the same time, now people will be able to use far more teams. Yep, I can see it being a big problem, but I bet they did all the math on it and came out to like their goal was to keep it at the same level of difficulty overall, and I think 2% is probably going to be right there. But we'll see. I'm very interested to see where it lands. I think, for example, over in Scarif, we're going to be just fine. This is going to make it significantly easier for us, actually. But we'll see. What are you talking about in particular, EXO? I think that's a good thing, personally. We for most guilds, any guild that really had this raid on lock as is, they weren't allowing this big slacker runs anyway because you shouldn't. That's just all you're doing is encouraging people to go after slacker as opposed to more overall helpful things. And so getting rid of the massive runs is good. Getting rid of the big runs along with it is a little bit of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but overall, because of the way they did it, it's going to allow people to run more teams. So I think they had to. And because it was obviously more important to allow people to do this at will, which necessarily means that people will be able to do more teams. And so if you're allowing each player to do more damage per phase just because they can run more teams per phase, then you kind of have to nerf even the less than massive runs too, in order to, if they're trying to keep it at the same level of, hey, we want these guilds to complete this, which is how they started the post, is by saying they were happy with the number of guilds and the quality of guilds that were currently completing it. So I think they've accomplished their goal. Whether or not you agree with their goal is a whole other thing. I, I, I think I'm happy with the number of guilds that were really completing it personally. However, I was really unhappy that international guilds were getting really screwed on this. So now international guilds won't be getting screwed. That's a really positive change. But otherwise, I think the level of guild required to complete the raid was already about right. Prime should be fine too, but I'm concerned about people with very small R5 rosters compared to me with 7 teams to run at least. Actually, I think that's going to be okay, Ikir. We're talking about now you, who has 7 teams to run. That's great. You should have a higher score than the people with fewer R5s. Whereas before, it was just whoever had a slacker team. If you had a Supreme Leader Kylo team, you were going to score above somebody who had 5 teams that they could run. I think this is a positive change just because of that. You can run 7 teams, and people who only have slacker can only run their slacker, and you'll do better than them, and you should. Sure, but I mean, you get my point. Yeah, if you have Ray and slacker, you were already set for sure. Yeah, I'm gonna miss my because over in Scarif I was doing the phase 1 slacker solo for a little while because we've been just to make phase 1 super easy, and also we felt that officers deserved a little bit of a bump in this raid for how much of a pain this is to organize for the officers. So we were letting officers participate in phase 1, um, and so I'm definitely gonna be losing out on my top tier rewards on it, but that's okay. Yeah, everything you can get, exactly. Yeah, EXO. So this will be a big boost for people with who have decent R5 rosters, but they just didn't have Slacker yet. And like that's just not. It really wasn't a cool thing about this raid. I was really unfortunate about it. Well, about the rewards for this raid. I was really hoping. So this is the one thing that's missing from this that I really wanted in this update was a rewards update. And all they have to do is take out some of the useless rewards. Honestly, I'm fine with the R8 rewards being where they are. It's not great, but it's fine, especially since R8 rewards are now going to be in conquest mode. Okay, great. And I'm okay with the complete randomness of the rewards because it is flatter, right? You have just as much chance at number 39 of getting a full Cairo as you do at number 1. However, you also have just as much chance at number 1 of getting complete crap as you do anywhere else. They really need to take out the crap rewards. I was really hoping for that. There's no reason we should have such crap rewards in the hardest thing in the game. And it's a little frustrating, and I was really hoping that would be part of this update, and it is not. And it was even something they had mentioned before that they were thinking about the rewards, so I'm kind of surprised that they didn't at least take that stuff out. I don't know, maybe they're just really happy with people getting the crap rewards, but no, more people, like, as it is, everybody gets pretty much the same rewards, to be honest, because pretty much everybody gets crap rewards. And that's it. You'll have a few people randomly, no matter how high they place, get some good rewards, and that's about it. It's actually one of the more frustrating things about this raid to begin with was that it had, for the amount of effort required to complete it, it had very, very poor rewards. It never felt like it was worth the time. It was the only reason I put a bunch of effort into it was honestly to make videos. I was having a blast making videos on it, even if the effort to complete this raid was just not worth the rewards. Ikir, I totally agree with you there. I'm okay with where they are now, but I think 5 should be the minimum. But we also need to see really it looks like the R8 rewards in Conquest are going to be pretty good. So that kind of makes up for it. And okay. I just don't care about R8s that much in any case. So that's a little bit more of a personal thing for me, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, and that was it was 10 on normal. I think it's 20 on hard. Well, that's what I'm saying is like I've got time to save up enough to be able to, R8 5 characters for the next GL. We'll see. But that's definitely why I'm not taking my Mace Windu to R8. Which I love that faith. That's wonderful. Exo, no, absolutely not. I don't think it'll be able to get 3 culling blades off at all, but I think it'll be able to get 1 huge culling blade off. So I think it will actually come out as the top team. Because now you're talking about you need teams that can build towards 1 big hit. Like the ideal team for the new mechanics is going to be you want 1 big hit, the biggest hit that you can get, and that is Vader. Vader is going to be the ideal mechanic for this. So I'm going to be doing a bunch of theory crafting. I bet a bunch of people are going to be doing a bunch of theory crafting about how can we get as many, get it down to about 2%, and then the biggest hit that you can get. So I think we're going to see a lot of big single hits from Rex and big single hits from Vader. I think that's really going to be the thing. And I think our GLs are probably going to end up being used to facilitate that. So throw Rey in with Vader and try to keep Vader alive long enough to get a huge hit in. Because you might even be able to take it down to 4% before doing that big hit if you've got Rey in there. I would actually mod Vader. It depends on the team. So if you've got something else really keeping him alive, then yeah, just go crit damage, triangle, and then as much offense as possible. But if you can, I think it might also work to just give him a ton of health and defense, make him super tanky, and just keep him alive as long as possible. Use uh, Watt to stack as many. So you could keep a very slow Vader, a very tanky Vader, still have the crit damage triangle, and just try to keep him alive as long as possible. Have Watt keep stacking the dots, and then get off a big culling blade. I'm definitely going to mess around with a bunch of different ideas as far as how to best do that. I think the Vader Newt team is going to be king. I don't think there's a ton of changes to make for that, other than maybe subbing in JML. You might have use JML as a tank in a Vader team, might work out really, really well. Give JML something to do. Hey there, it's Mary J. Good to see you. Yeah, we were just actually just kind of wrapping up, going over the update. Been doing it for about an hour here. The main thing that we've got going on is that they've removed they've completely changed the 75% stacking offense and speed. It will now be 20% stacking offense and speed every 2% of health during a single run. So, one, it will not be persistent. This means that you can run multiple teams, which will be great. So everybody will be able to run multiple teams. You don't have to coordinate at the same time. Everybody can just post their damage and go. Perfectly fine. That's a massive, massive benefit. However, it will now stack 20% every 2%, but it's 20% stacking. So at 2%, you will have a 20% speed and offense bonus. At 4%, it will be a 60% speed and offense bonus. So good luck getting past 6 to 8%. We're theory crafting that Vader should be able to do 10 to 12%, but I don't know. I can't think of any other team off the top of my head that will be able to do more than 8% with this. So pretty big nerf to most teams here. But on the other hand, people, instead of being able to only use their best 4 teams, one for each phase, people will be able to use their entire R5 roster. Correct. So now the damage increase will only happen on your run. So at the end of the run, it resets, which is great. That's how every other raid works. It's how all other mechanics really work for the most part, is it only ramps for you during your run. Right. Yeah, that's great. It'll save all the international guilds for one. It will make the entire thing wildly easier. It'll make Phase 4 wildly easier. Every other phase will now be significantly more difficult, though. There will be no more large runs. Anything over 6% is going to be good. On the bright side, this means that there will be a lot more use for second-string teams. And that's a good thing in my book. I'd like to see more people running more teams. And yay, no more airplane mode. I mean, everybody should still run it in airplane mode just to get the best damage that you can. But airplane mode shaming memes. Anything in this update that has you like, whoa? 2% kind of has me like stacking 20, 40, 60, 80, etc. percent every 2%. That's a little crazy. They really nerfed big runs. There's no big runs there. And that's a big deal. Now, there was one thing that I was not expecting that I'm really excited for, or happy about, which is they also got rid of the triple penalty for Galactic Legends. So there's no longer... So Galactic Legends are just now treated the exact same as everybody else. They will have... what is it? All enemies, both active and defeated, lose 5% offense, tenacity, and mastery, stacking to a max of 10 stacks until the end of the encounter. So now all that happens is every character will at most be down 50% of their offense, tenacity, and mastery. That makes all characters more effective That's actually that's a really good thing just overall. Not that a ton of characters can even make it to 10 stacks, but that's really significant. EXO, it's 20 plus 40 plus 60. So it stacks by an extra 20 every time. It's pretty crazy. So getting past 6% is going to be really, really tough. Nerdy, originally GLs had a triple penalty on that, so they were reduced by 15% every turn. That was their initial attempt at preventing Slacker from becoming God in this raid, which obviously failed, because now they're changing all of this because Slacker was still able to do ridiculous things. So now they got rid of that. So that's a big thing. I also really like that it caps out at 50%. That's good. So now teams that do survive into past that 10th boss turn, yeah, they can still keep going without more penalty still hitting them. And also that should theoretically mean that both JML and Sith Eternal will do more damage. So that phase 4 JML team, it should do a bit better because you can now stack some offense on JML and you won't just see it dropping to practically nothing so quickly. Because JML can hit decently hard. And if you can get into ult, which I still don't think there's any way to get into JML's ult, you could, do some serious damage with the JML team. But it's going to be really tough to get into either Sith Eternal or JML's ults in this raid. Sith Eternal theoretically could get into it in phase 1. I don't know that it'd do great, but you could do it. It's Mary J. It will not be, they are not launching the changes for at least a couple weeks. So they said, what was their exact wording here? Let's see. Where was it? Scheduled to be released in the coming weeks. And then there will be an announcement on the release date for these changes several days in advance in order to help guilds coordinate when to launch their raids. So personally, I would expect to hear from them in about maybe a week and a half to 2 weeks, and then for it to drop maybe that next Tuesday or something like that. So yeah, you still have at least one, or I would guess 2 more raids to get in that Slacker solo. Personally, I'm still going to try to get another. I'm going to do one more test tonight of the R7 Slacker solo. I've got one more idea that hopefully I can get a solo out of an R7, but I'm not that hopeful. I don't think it's actually possible. I think you really have to have R8. 85% I think is about the best you can do. But we'll see. I'm gonna do one more test tonight and we'll see how it goes. Red Rain. Yeah, I do want to raid soon. I was thinking of starting at 6, so I can have 2 hours to test that Slacker solo, and we'll be able to post fairly quickly. Yeah, highest I've seen is 58% with an R8, with Night Sisters and Slacker. But there's just so much RNG in that. I hate running that, and I don't like letting people run it because there's so much RNG that it can take way too long to get through phases 2 and 3. Interesting with Armorer. The 58 that I've seen was Slacker, Night Sisters, Thrawn, and Hux. But interesting. Yeah, I really want to see some more Armorer teams, and I think with the changes here, Armorer is going to be an even bigger deal. I think we're going to see some really interesting Armorer teams. I think we'll also see some interesting Dark Trooper, because Dark Trooper hits real hard, and if you call him to assist a bunch, you could do some interesting things with this. So we'll see. Let's see now. Let me go ahead and yeah, we'll see about jumping into the raid. I think we're gonna do that in let me catch up with the officer chat here. Yeah, we should do CPit tonight. I don't see any reason why not. Yes, I can help out. And yes. Okay, cool. Now that I'm caught up with that, I would like to launch at 6 o'clock, but we could launch earlier, and I'll take more time to play around. Right, that's what I was thinking. Use Piet to mark Dark Trooper, and then keep calling him to assist. That'd be great. Armor in P4 with JKL, Ray, Gas, Hoda. Um, hmm. I would think maybe a little bit better with a JKR lead as well. Or maybe even... Yeah. I really like armor with like Vader. With Vader teams, it's pretty significant. All right. Okay, so let's see here. So I'm already streaming. I'm perfectly fine if you guys want to open the raid up right away. Works for me. I'll just need a few minutes to get some drink and caffeine. I could even mix and match. I could do scotch and coffee. Why not? All right, let's see here. Yeah, armor with Slacker is pretty cool. Cool. All right, so we're going to launch here in a minute. I will get my new mod set loaded up that I'm going to test. The main change here is I've given Thrawn a bunch of crit chance. I've taken him up to about 80% crit chance. What I want to try to do is get a one-turn ult off super quickly and see what everything looks like. If our timing would allow us to really do something, if that would allow us to really get past that 85% that I've been doing. Well, that's awesome, Mary J. Glad it's helpful. So this will be very interesting. Super looking forward to these changes. I think it's going to be great. Let me go ahead and get the game pulled up here. And then I'm going to take a quick break to go get some drink. Oh yeah, there's going to be a lot of new content. Unfortunately, it's also sort of wiped out all of the content that I'd been planning, which I was kind of waiting for this announcement, why I hadn't done a ton of videos recently, but now it's going to be... There's going to be a lot of new content, because now we get to look at, hey, here's the second, third, fourth best team in this phase, because you get to use all of them. And I think that's a really positive change too. Encourage people to expand those rosters a little bit. I like that they did that with Conquest, that people who have large rosters are, finally getting a little rewarded for it. Instead of, hey, make sure you keep your roster trim because GAC is the thing. And I mean, I love GAC, but I really feel like people shouldn't be penalized for playing around for, if somebody wants to take their Mace Windu to R8, they shouldn't be penalized for it, and they currently are. Let's see. Okay, perfect. It is launched. Let me load up my mods here, which is going to log me out of the game, so I'll have to relog, but we'll do that. While that's loading, I will go get myself loaded up with some drink, and I will be back in just a minute. In the meantime, enjoy some lovely hold music from Tommy Icarus.